Okay, let's dive in. We're looking at a situation today that, well, it hits close to home for a lot of folks, I think. Imagine this. You've got a plumber, 53 years old, been working hard, like really hard for 25 years, and he's bringing in decent money, right? Somewhere between, say, $65,000 and $90,000 a year. Sounds okay on paper, but here's the kicker. He's only got $18,000 in savings. That's it. No retirement plan, none. He does have assets, sort of. A $40,000 Dodge Ram, a $20,000 RV. Oh, and apparently he sold some land once, but the money just poof, gone.
Yeah, it's a stark picture, and it immediately throws up that really urgent question, doesn't it? How does someone like that actually survive their 70s?
Yeah.
Financially, I mean. So for this deep dive, we're digging into a really interesting Reddit thread. Someone, maybe his wife, maybe another relative, laid out this whole scenario, asking for help. And the response is, wow, a real flood. Some were harsh, brutally honest, but many were actually super insightful. So our goal here is to pull out the actionable stuff, the surprising facts from all that collective input. Hopefully there's something useful for anyone listening who feels, maybe a bit behind on saving for retirement, wherever you're starting from.
Right. Let's get straight into those reactions then, because people didn't hold back. When they saw this setup, the comments flew in. Things like, he will work until he dies, just flat out. Others were even blunter, you can't fix stupidity, or just deep trouble. When you hear those first takes, what's the immediate takeaway for you? What's the core problem they're seeing?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because those reactions, harsh as they are, they instantly point to something fundamental. It's this failure, maybe, to grasp that financial well-being isn't just about how much you earn. It's about uh, discipline, making deliberate choices, putting future security over, well, buying stuff now. The real insight, I think, is that wealth comes from time and consistency, not just a big paycheck. The Reddit crowd nailed it. A serious lack of financial discipline. You saw comments like buying toys versus saving 15%, right?
Yeah.
Or pointing out he's spending exactly what he makes. Classic trap.
Yeah.
And the new trucks and the monthly payments, the whole YOLO thing.
You only live once until you're 70 with no money.
Exactly. And even this sort of hoarding mindset around physical things, the truck, the RV. Plus, apparently the wife said we make enough money, but she wasn't working or saving anything herself.
Ah.
Which kind of adds another layer, doesn't it? About shared goals, shared responsibility.
It really does paint a complicated picture. And, about the income itself, lots of people questioned it. Like, how is a plumber, which people often say is like printing money, earning only that much? Some folks were saying he should be pulling at least twice that. What's that tell you about his business?
Yeah, that comment about zero business sense really stood out. Because look, if you're a skilled tradesperson, your earning potential can be huge. But it takes more than just being good with pipes, right? You need some business savvy. And this income discussion led straight to another critical point. His business, as it stands, probably not sellable.
Why not?
Because it's all him. There's no passive income. If he stops working, the income stops too. Simple as that.
Ah, okay.
It's a really common trap for self-employed people. They don't separate personal and business finances properly, or they never scale up. So it's just a job, really, not an asset you can sell later. Big difference.
That makes total sense. And being self-employed brings up another huge worry that kept appearing in the comments: Social Security. People were asking, will they even have much Social Security income? Why is that such a big worry for the self-employed crowd specifically?
That's a really important question. It's because, well, sometimes small business owners, maybe they take a lot of cash payments, or they try to minimize their reported income, for tax reasons. The result is they might not be paying enough into Social Security, or sometimes anything at all.
And that leaves a massive gap later on.
A huge gap. And on top of that, there's general anxiety about Social Security's future. Some commenters were throwing out numbers like maybe he'll only pay 77% of benefits by the time he retires, or even, the fund could run out and benefits drop sometime in the early 2030s. Now, whether that happens or not.
That's scary stuff, even if you have paid in consistently.
Exactly. Even if you've done everything right, the consensus is clear. Social Security is just meant to be a baseline. It provides basic income, but not enough. It was never designed to be your only retirement fund.
Okay.
So the advice that came through loud and clear, and this really is for everyone listening, is check your statement. Go to socialsecurity.gov, view your statement. Seriously. See what your projected benefits look like. Know where you stand.
Okay, so it sounds pretty dire at first glance. But, not everyone was throwing their hands up. A lot of commenters actually struck a more hopeful note. Things like, 53 is not too late. And your situation isn't great, but not hopeless either. Someone even said there's still time to unfuck this. which is pretty blunt, but maybe true. So for you listening, think about that time frame. He's 53, retirement at 67, maybe. That's 14 years. It's not forever, but it is a window, right, if you take serious action.
It absolutely is a window. And that 14-year time frame really kicked off a heated debate about investment strategy because time is tight. You had one camp arguing really strongly for 100% equity starting yesterday.
Wow, all in on stocks.
Yeah. Their logic is basically no such thing as too far behind, so there is no volatility tolerance. Meaning you can't afford not to take the risk if you want a chance to catch up.
What do they mean by volatility tolerance is something you pay for?
Well, playing it safe with less volatile investments usually means lower returns. That safety, that stability, it costs you potential growth. So if you have almost nothing saved, they argue you can't afford that cost. You need the higher potential returns of stocks. They're saying things like equities are not a material risk on a 14-year timeline because historically, over that long, they tend to recover. And that real-world assets like equities don't care about the currency, meaning they hold value better than cash. They even pointed to target date funds like Vanguard 2055 being mostly stocks, like 91.6%. You need that extra juice, they say.
Okay, so the logic is desperate times, potentially desperate measures, go aggressive because you have to try and catch up fast.
That's the gist of it. But then naturally you have the other side. The cautious voices. They're warning 100% equities just ups the risk. That can work out, but also go the other way.
Makes sense.
And their big fear is totally valid. If the market tanks 20% in 2026 and takes 7 years to recover, then what?
Yeah, if that happens when you're like 60.
Exactly. You don't have time to wait for it to bounce back fully before you need the money. It's a real gamble.
So a real disagreement there on risk. But what about inflation? Seems like everyone agreed on that.
Oh, absolutely. Universal agreement that inflation has just hammered his savings. That $18 K, it buys less and less. There's a great quote from someone identifying as a financial analyst. Don't hold cash, it returns nothing. Even banks giving you high interest aren't even keeping up with inflation.
So cash is losing value.
Constantly. The explanation given was simple. Governments print money to pay their debt. This devalues currency. This is not my opinion, this is a fact. Stark, but basically true.
Okay, that really sets the stage. So let's get practical. What can this guy actually do? This is where it gets really interesting, right? Moving past the diagnosis to the what now. And like you said, the core requirement seems to be a level of financial discipline he's heretofore never demonstrated. Big ask. But the Reddit hive mind came up with some concrete steps.
It really did.
Yeah.
Step one seems to be immediate financial triage. Adjustments right now. The advice was loud and clear. Sell the RV and/or downgrade the truck. Get rid of those toys.
Free up some cash.
Exactly. Someone crunched the numbers. Maybe sell the $20 K RV, trade the $40 K truck for something cheaper, say $20K cheaper. Boom, that $40,000 freed up instantly.
Okay, that's a chunk of change.
Right. And then slash the monthly spending. Someone suggested finding an extra $500 a month to save. Cut subscriptions, eat out less, whatever it takes.
Okay, so sell the depreciating assets, cut the fat from the budget. That makes sense. That's step one. But then once he potentially has this $40 K lump sum, plus maybe $500 extra a month, where does it go? What did they suggest?
Good question. This is where maximizing contributions and using the right types of accounts becomes critical. Huge emphasis on the wife needing to start working and contributing too, if possible. And then both of them should max out Roth IRAs if they can.
Roth IRAs, okay.
And for him, being self-employed, they highlighted specific accounts. SEP IRA, Solo 401k, Simple IRA.
Why those specifically?
Because they let you contribute way more than a standard IRA, like potentially $20 plus per year. And apparently, they're very easy to set up.
Gotcha. So bigger contributions possible.
Much bigger. And they laid out a potential scenario, sort of an example. Take that $40,000 from selling the RV and truck, invest it. Maybe grows at 6% for 15 years. That's about $95,000. Then put $8,000 a year into a SEP IRA for 14 years. If that grows at 7%, maybe that's another $160,000. Plus, save that extra $500 a month for 15 years. That's $90,000 right there.
Okay, we add that up. 95.
Yeah.
160. 90, that's like $345,000.
Exactly. Around $345K, not even counting any Social Security, which is, vastly better than $18.
No kidding. That's a completely different retirement picture.
It really is. Now, in terms of what to invest in.
Yeah, what kind of investments? They debated the 100% stocks thing, but what were the actual suggestions?
Broad market index funds were a common recommendation.
Ethan.
Things like SPY or VOO. Simple, low cost. Historically, they returned about 10% per year on average, though past performance isn't future guarantee, of course.
Standard advice. Anything else?
Yeah, some mentioned gold. mostly as a way to just store buying power, hedge against currency devaluation maybe. And then
Yeah.
there was talk about dividend-paying stocks or REITs, real estate investment trusts.
For income.
Exactly. For generating
Mhm.
some semi-passive income. They gave an example. If you have 30K, 50K invested and get a 4% yield, that's $1,200, $2,000 a year. Maybe not huge, but it's something. Some specific high-yield funds got mentioned, like QQQI, ARDC, SBYI, EIC, PBDC. Yields quoted were like 9% to 13%, though high yield often means high risk. You need to be careful there.
Right. Any really out there ideas?
Well, someone threw out the Bitcoin strategy. Acknowledged it was a little aggressive, but also might be the only way to catch up. Definitely high risk, high reward potential.
Okay. And anything to avoid.
Yeah, a few people specifically said stay away from mutual funds, calling them a scam, likely due to high fees compared to ETFs or index funds.
Okay, so lots of investment ideas, but what about the income side? You mentioned his business earlier. Any advice on boosting that?
Oh yeah, big time. This wasn't just about cutting costs, it was about transforming the business itself. The advice was to monetize the business more strategically.
How?
Simple things, maybe. Raise prices, because apparently he doesn't know what to charge. That's common. Add premium services. Focus on building recurring clients, not just one-off jobs. Use modern software like Jobber or House Call Pro to manage things better, schedule, invoice, look more professional,
Makes sense. Streamline it. Make it more efficient.
and make it more profitable,
Huh.
but also make it sellable.
Back to that idea. How do you make a one-man plumbing operation sellable?
The key suggestion was hire and train an apprentice, someone who can learn the ropes, take over jobs, and eventually buy the business.
Like an exit strategy.
Exactly. Set up some kind of profit-sharing deal, maybe transition over a few years. They shared a cool anecdote about a tire shop owner who did this. Sold to his employee, now gets $20K a year for 20 years. Passive income.
Wow. That's the dream, right? Turn your job into an asset that pays you.
That's the ultimate goal. And there were other income ideas too. Buy a rental property that cash flows. Shift focus to less physically demanding work consulting, maybe doing home inspections, teach plumbing at a local state VOTEC school, or even just go work for another bigger plumbing company that offers benefits and a 401k.
Lots of options there. Any really wild ones?
While someone seriously suggested moving somewhere like California, where plumbers apparently can make 10x the income,
10 times.
yeah, and drive a Porsche Taycan, according to the comment. Probably an exaggeration, but it highlights that location can drastically impact earning potential in the trades.
Okay, that's a ton of practical advice. Investing, business changes, income streams. So, boiling it all down, what's the most critical thing he needs to change?
You know, after all the numbers and strategies, it really circled back to mindset. That seemed to be the core message. The community kept saying, stop equating stuff, truck, RV, with safety. Material things aren't security. Stop avoiding investing out of fear or stubbornness. You can't afford not to engage with it now. And maybe the biggest one, start seeing time as limited. Recognize the urgency. Someone put it starkly. He's in the red zone, not extra innings. Time is running out to make these changes count. It's a call to action, really.
Yeah, that's powerful. So, the path forward, if he does nothing, seems pretty bleak, honestly. Working forever, maybe poverty. But what we've dug into here shows there are paths forward. They're hard paths, require huge changes, discipline he hasn't shown before, but they exist. And while this plumber story feels extreme, lots of commenters said things like, this is probably the type of situation most Americans are in, or what half of Americans are experiencing, which, if true, means this deep dive isn't just about him, it's relevant to a lot of us, maybe even you listening right now.
Absolutely. So what does this all really mean for you, the listener? I think this forces us to look at our own choices and maybe uncomfortably, how easily income can just disappear into things that don't build wealth. So maybe ask yourself, what toys or non-appreciating assets are you holding on to? Could they be repurposed? Could they become the foundation for your financial future instead? Or maybe simpler, what's one small, consistent financial step you could start taking today? Setting up that automatic transfer, finally opening that investment account, just tracking your spending for a month. Something small that, like we saw in these examples, could genuinely change your financial life 10 or 15 years down the road. Because time, as we heard loud and clear, is finite. And the choices we make with the time we have left, well, they define everything that comes next.